Q? What are you doing here? It's not podcast day, and we haven't made a video in ages.
There is a way.
No.
Now you're probably wondering, how did we make what you just saw? Well, we're going to get into that in a second, but I want to get into collecting. Retro gaming is a thing over here at this channel we really do like doing. We don't make a ton of videos on it. Really, it's just a matter of time. But we love collecting. We all have collections. Now, the one thing that I'm sure a lot of us have are games with either beat up like boxes or games that don't have the box. And you're not going to so much play them in your NES. Some people do, but or maybe some people have doubles and they want to display them on their wall as art. I know I do, because I play these games by other means, mostly because I don't really want to wear them down. They're more collector's items to me, and nostalgia from my childhood that I want to keep on my walls as a memory of when I was younger. And this is a really, really great way to do that. And the things that we're actually going to use to make that are interesting, and they're really, really cheap. Now, I'm sure you already saw in the intro, we're going to need a shadow box. Right over here, we got a nice 9x9 shadow box. Really cheap. Usually a lot of places sell these. I know we have a place called Michael's in our town. They have sales on these things all the time, are like half off or 75% off. So look around, you can find these really cheap. Now, the main component that really makes this really work are these sound modules. These sound modules are mostly made for making greeting cards that have sounds that play in them. That's why these things are really, really cheap. And you can find them pretty much on any like hobby website, like with electronics. I got these off Amazon, super cheap, like $7 a piece. The same ones will be linked below if you want to get a hold of them. And we're gonna need a few other things to really get this together. We need tools, we need popsicle sticks, we need batteries, drills, all that stuff. So let's gather everything. So now that we have everything gathered together, let me explain some of these parts. So we got these things, which I briefly hinted at what we're using, which are tiny little sound modules. So this one is a light sensor. Picks up on light, and when you expose it, turns on. And then right now, since we're just out in the open, if I turn this on, we can hear a game sound start playing. What that game is, you'll see in a minute. But the other one we have here actually has a button, which we are going to need to hook up a little tiny 12-volt little battery holder here so that we can power it. Which one we're going to use, we're not sure yet, but we'll get into that. That's why we need batteries. And you always need hot glue and popsicle sticks. You're wondering, why do you need popsicle sticks? Well, you need some way to prop up that NES game inside the shadow box so it doesn't fall. And what we're going to do is actually take a couple popsicle sticks and prop them up, allow them to kind of make a kind of vertical like holder you can just slide the NES game into, which will work. And then obviously you saw the cardstock. We already have our art already printed out. Our printer wasn't exactly cooperating. Black ink's a little low, but I plan to have them reprinted a little properly a little later. But for the sake of this video, it'll do. Let's get in. So we got our shadow box. Let's take the plastic off our shadow box for one, and get it all ready to go. So now we have our plastic off. We take our little pins off here because you have to bend these back. So we have the backing, which is what this is going to be going on after I take some scissors and cut it out. Now you're probably really wondering, especially if you are an NES collector and you've only really know like the official licensed Nintendo games, you're like, what game is Mystic Origin? Never heard of that one. Well, it's this game right here. No, this isn't a complete version of this game. This is actually a beta version of this game, but it is something that means a lot to us. It's been sitting in our studio on our shelf because we acquired it at Retro World Expo from a friend of ours, Joe Granato, who actually developed this game. along with the original game Mystic Searches. And this is kind of like, I guess you could say, the prologue to that game, which is really, really cool. And if you don't know who he is, just search Joe Granato, the 8-Bit Heroes. There's a really great documentary out there on this and the making of the NES Maker, which is a development kit that he made for people to make NES games themselves at home on their computer, and able to flash them onto cartridges like this and have real NES games that they made themselves. Just search him, check it out. The project has so much energy behind it. It was awesome. We followed it all the way through. You can go check out our past videos. We have a couple interviews with him. Really great guy. But thank you, Joe, for this copy, and it's now going to be immortalized on our wall in our studio. Now that we have our image cut out, we are going to add it to our backing as the most center as I can get it, I guess, for now. Like I said, this isn't permanent for now because I'm going to have this reprinted. I might actually have it reprinted at a printing shop because I want it actually really well done. But for now, this is the concept. This is the idea. So we have that done. Now, we're going to move on to getting our components and our music onto our little device so that we can actually hear it playing. Okay, so we're over here at the computer and we have our little device here, this little module, and it just plugs in through USB and mini. It's fairly simple. We already have the other end plugged into our computer, so let's plug it in, and pretty much they're just like little tiny little hard drives. They don't hold a lot of space. So plug it in. There we go. If I go ahead and, like, we already know what's on here. So if I say delete this, off there. So we have a few different versions. Now, the reason why I have multiple versions here to explain something. So the reason why I'm explaining this because it's finicky. The bit rate does have to be there. If you do a quick MP3 compression, it will not work. I would use something like Audacity to recompress the MP3 file that you're using for the music after the fact, no matter where you get it from. Make sure it's kind of around 160 to 170 bit rate. And also it's no longer than 1.5 minutes. From my experimentation, that's kind of where the sweet spot is. And it's fairly easy once you do that. And like right here, I have Bloody Tears. I'm sure a number of you know where that's from. It's Castlevania, Simon's Quest, Castlevania 2 also known as. And once you add it onto the device. All right, so we have our file on there. So this is fairly simple. You can easily just close it out, detach it, and then once I turn this back on, there we go. But that's all it is to uploading them onto this little chip. So let's get to building it and putting it together and seeing the finished product. Now that we have our music, so these things, one of these has to be powered. So I have a bunch of these little things laying around. They're tiny little battery packs. There was a little shop called Radio Shack that went out of business, and I have a box full of random components. So I have a bunch of these. These are really cheap though. These are like maybe $1 on Amazon. They're super cheap. And they hold 4 AAA batteries, which is way more than enough for this project. These will last forever, as long as they don't blow up. And all it is just a little positive and negative. I'll just hook them together, throw some electrical tape. It's good. It's not going anywhere. And once that happens, we can just hit our little on switch and we have our music. So let's get onto the popsicle sticks and how these things are actually going to hold this NES game up. So if you notice, you have little spaces that's in between. And we're going to use popsicle sticks. Mostly I'm not going to use metal because metal can scrape. These are really inadvasive. They won't scrape the plastic. They'll hold it up really well. And these are super cheap to buy. You can buy like a bag of these for like $2. An easy way to measure it, just take your NES cartridge, stick your popsicle stick in, right where that is. That's your measurement right there. After you cut it, you'll get one like this. So we just got to make a duplicate because we have 2, because we need 2. So just get it on this line. And popsicle sticks usually can very easily be cut with scissors. And then once we have it, we're going to take just any blank little piece of popsicle stick, and we're just going to make it together like a little L. And that's going to be, I guess you could say, a little bracket or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Holder, component thing. I don't know. Whatever you want to call this thing. This is what we're going to do. Let's do some hot gluing. Let's get it together. So the next thing we're doing here, you can see our cartridge fits pretty well, just right in there right now. And we take our little file, gonna make it just a little groove right here. And this is for to fit our little button. So this little button is just gonna come right down to the bottom here and hook so that anybody can walk up to it and press it. So, and then next we're going to use some electrical tape, because this will also, it'll hold this wire into this groove and it will conceal it at the same time. So now that we have everything else, let's close this up. I hope you've enjoyed this journey of putting this project together. It was something I thought of a long time ago, and I'm really glad that we finally put it together, because this is going to really add to my wall of other nostalgia art, I guess you could say, I have on there. And it allows me to put my retro games on my wall along with the other art and the game itself. And now the music is there. And it's really easy to do. It's really cheap. So without further ado, let's get into the final shots.